my topic is also the death penalty. My major claim is the United States should abolish the death penalty. The death penalty, also known as the capital punishment, currently is still legal in 31 states. I have three secondary claims. So the first claim is the death penalty is too expensive compared to lifetime imprisoning. The first argument is the crime charged as capital cases with resource. According to Joylee McLove, in her article, The Price of Justice, Columbia University published a report on capital punishment in 2000, which found that 68% of capital judgments were seriously flawed, and the capital cases cost significantly more than non-capital ones. Consequently, the report concludes that large amounts of resources are being wasted on the case that should never have been capital cases at the first time. The second argument for the first claim is the capital prosecutions are simply more expensive. In the report to the Committee on Defender Service Judicial Conference of the United States update on the cost and quality of defense representation in federal death penalty cases. The median cost of the cases in which the Attorney General authorized seeking the death penalty was nearly 8 times greater than the cost of the case that was eligible for capital prosecution, but in which the death penalty was not authorized. So, the following is the second claim. The death penalty fails to deter serious crime. The first argument is the fear of death is unlikely to deter the worst criminal. Let's put us in a really simple situation. Which is greater fear? If someone tells you you will be gunshotted in 3 months, or you are facing a gunshot in your face right now, in this second. So my point is, according to John Donahoe, professor of law at Stanford University, there's no evidence that death penalty is a deterrent against crime. To get the death penalty in the United States, one has to commit an extraordinary heinous crime, as evidenced by the fact that last year, roughly 14,000 murders were committed, but only 35 executions took place. Since the murders typically expose themselves to far greater immediate risk, the likelihood is incredibly remote that some small chance of execution many years after committing a crime will influence the behavior of a sociopathic deviant who would otherwise be willing to kill if his only penalty were life imprisonment. The second crime is the criminology doubt that the death penalty is effective. According to Michael Radelet, he's a sociology professor and department chair at the University of Carolina in Boulder. In his article, "Do Execution Lower Homicide Rate?" he simply said, "The surveys indicate that the vast majority of the world's top criminals believe the empirical research has revealed the deterrence hypothesis for a myth. 88.2% of poll criminologists do not believe the death penalty is a deterrent. And fewer than 10% of the poll experts believe the deterrence effect of the death penalty is not stronger than the long-term imprisonment." The final claim is the death penalty is biased. Based on the study of racial bias, in the Professor Bauder's report to ABA, American Bar Association, in 96% of states, where there have been reviews of race and death penalty. There was a pattern of either race of victim or the race of defendants, discrimination, or both. And based on the Pierce and Redler Santa Clara review in 2005, a study in California found that those convicted of killing whites were more than 3 times as likely to be sentenced to death as those convicted of killing blacks, and more than 4 times more likely as those that convict of killing Latinos. In Professor Beckett of University of Washington, he says the jurors in Washington's states are 3 times more likely to recommend a death sentence for a black defendant than for a white defendant in a similar case. So my conclusion is death penalty is not embedded in the United States, and then is involving in racial bias, and it is not deterrence to criminal, and also it's just like waste a lot of resource and money. Thank you. If you need another copy, I can give you.
No, this is fine.
Can I do my speech?
Yeah, I guess. Hang on a second, though. I'm finishing up with the last one. All right. The proposition's identified, but it's a proposition of policy, so you really, kind of have this a little out of place. There's no preview of what the supporting structure is. You do signpost, though, the points as you go through the speech, and I thought that you did a good job kind of explaining what your supporting points were on each of those points as well. So I think it was very well organized in the body of the speech. It just needed a little bit of preview at the beginning to help us follow it more effectively. You had a lot of information in the presentation. There's some statistical information, expert testimony. You cite the sources pretty efficiently throughout the presentation, so you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing on that. I do think that those points all, they don't necessarily all hang together except for the argument that the death penalty should be abolished. They really feel like they are disparate issues, and they're connected in this particular proposition by the fact that you've got a policy proposition. So there might be another way to fit them all into the argument, but I'm not sure that you have found that. The issue of deterrence, for instance, I think probably could have been the sole issue of fact that you talked about, and it might have worked a little bit more effectively as a claim of fact. Like I said, the presentation is clear because it's organized and because you cite the evidence very consistently. So I'll stop there because we have issues in front of us that have to be resolved.